Assalamu alaikum, dear viewers. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome back to our channel. After a comprehensive overview about the 55 types of angels created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are now moving towards the Malaikat al-Samʿ wal-Baṣar, the testing angels of hearing and sight. Among the subtle and profound categories of angels tasked with divine examination are the Malaikat al-Samʿ wal-Baṣar, the angels of hearing and sight, who test humanity through perception, misunderstanding, and the illusions of sensory reality. These angels are guardians of discernment, charged with unveiling how mortals respond to what they hear, see, and interpret from the world around them. They are the invisible witnesses who observe how the human being reacts to divine signs disguised in the ordinary, a cry for help, a verse recited, a scene of beauty, or a moment of injustice, and whether the senses become tools of remembrance or veils of heedlessness. These are the beings of unfathomable might, created from the most luminous light of Nur Muhammadi, meaning the divine light of Prophet Muhammad. Their tests are not through pain or wealth, but through subtle misperceptions, how one hears a truth yet misinterprets it, or sees a sign yet overlooks its spiritual significance. In these moments, Malaikat al-Samʿ wal-Baṣar record whether the heart remains aware of Allah's light behind appearances, or becomes ensnared in confusion, prejudice, or self-deception. These angels represent one of the most refined trials of the soul, the trial of perception. For in every era, humanity is surrounded by voices, images, and impressions, some guiding, some deceiving. Through them, the angels test whether the believer filters these through divine remembrance, meaning dhikr of Allah, or worldly attachment, meaning ghafla. They bring forth moments where truth and falsehood are intertwined, where beauty and temptation coexist, and where one's spiritual sight, called basira, is challenged to discern the divine presence amidst the noise of creation. Sufi commentators describe that these angels operate between the outer senses and the inner heart, mediating the alignment between Samʿ, meaning hearing, and Basar, meaning sight, with Fuad, meaning inner perception. If the heart remains pure, the hearing perceives divine wisdom even in worldly sounds, and the sight beholds the signs of Allah in every form. But if the heart is veiled, both senses become distorted, leading to misunderstanding, suspicion, and spiritual blindness. Thus, Malaikat al-Samʿ wal-Baṣar are divine examiners of awareness. They test the believer's capacity to hear with humility, see with sincerity, and perceive with purity. Every sound, every vision, every impression becomes a potential test. Will one recognize the divine message hidden within, or will one be blinded by illusion? Through their presence, Allah refines the soul's perception, transforming the act of seeing and hearing into sacred instruments of awakening. Before going further, a quick update: all our videos are available in both English and Urdu languages on our YouTube channel. You can find them by navigating to our playlists, where all our videos are available for your convenience. Now let's continue. Quranic mentions. In Surah Al-Mulk, verse 23, Allah says, "Say, it is He who produced you and made for you hearing, sight, and hearts. Little are you grateful." This verse reveals that hearing and sight are divine gifts, given not for indulgence but for spiritual discernment. Sufi commentators say that Malaikat al-Samʿ wal-Baṣar record the gratitude or heedlessness shown when a believer uses these senses, whether they listen to truth or falsehood, look with purity or corruption. In Surah Al-Isrā, verse 36, Allah says, "And do not pursue that of which you have no knowledge. Indeed, the hearing, the sight, and the heart, about all those one will be questioned. Here lies one of the most direct scriptural bases for these angels. On the day of judgment, one's hearing and sight will bear witness, an indication of the angelic beings that accompany and govern these faculties throughout life, documenting every act of perception. The mystics interpret this as the domain of Malaikat al-Samʿ wal-Baṣar, who preserve the moral and spiritual records of sensory experience. In Surah Al-Ḥajj, verse 179, Allah says, "They have hearts with which they do not understand, eyes with which they do not see, and ears with which they do not hear. They are like cattle, rather they are more astray." This verse reflects the condition when perception becomes veiled, the test that these angels initiate. It is not the physical hearing or vision that fails, but the spiritual perception that is lost. The angels of hearing and sight thus withdraw their illumination from those who persist in heedlessness, leaving them to wander in spiritual blindness. In Surah Fussilat verses 20 and 22, Allah says, "Until when they reach the fire, their hearing and their eyes and their skins will testify against them of what they used to do." The Sufi exegesis explains that the angels of perception will cause one's own senses to speak, Malaikat al-Samʿ wal-Baṣar, transforming into witnesses, revealing how each sense responded to divine messages. Ibn Arabi describes this as the unveiling of the inner angelic function of the senses, the moment when perception itself testifies to its use. In Surah An-Nahl, verse 78, Allah says, "And Allah brought you out of your mother's wombs not knowing a thing, and He made for you hearing and sight and hearts, that you might be grateful." According to Imam al-Ghazali, this verse signifies that each sense is guarded by an angel who nurtures its connection to the heart. The angels of hearing and sight ensure that one's spiritual faculties mature as one learns to discern divine meaning from worldly experience. In Surah Qāf, verse 17 and 18, Allah says, "When the two receivers receive, seated on the right and on the left, man does not utter any word except that with him is an observer ready to record," although classically referring to Raqib and Atid. Sufi tradition includes Malaikat al-Samʿ wal-Baṣar within this cosmic record keeping, responsible for what enters through the eyes and ears, not merely what leaves the mouth. Every seen and heard moment is inscribed for the day of reckoning. In Surah Al-An'am, verse 46, Allah says, "Say, have you considered? If Allah should take away your hearing and your sight and seal up your hearts, which deity other than Allah could restore them to you?" This verse establishes that these faculties are not independent. They are sustained by divine permission through the angels that guard them. The Malaikat al-Samʿ wal-Baṣar act as intermediaries of divine will. When they withdraw their protection, perception itself collapses into darkness. In Surah Al-Insan, verse 2, Allah says, "Indeed, we created man from a sperm drop mixture that we may test him, and we made him hearing and seeing." The entire purpose of Samʿ and Basar is summarized here. They are instruments of divine testing. The angels of these faculties accompany every human life from birth, overseeing how the senses become instruments of awareness or deception. According to the mystics, each of these verses affirms that hearing and sight are angelic gateways. The heart qalb is their throne and the angels of perception are their guardians. When one listens with sincerity and sees with purity, these angels illuminate the soul with basira, inner sight. But when one listens to falsehood or looks with arrogance, they withdraw, leaving the person in spiritual darkness. In our previous videos, we also explored the verse on how Allah created every living thing from water, the creation of the waters above the dome and below the flat earth, the firmament dome above the flat earth, actual shape of the earth according to the Quran and Islamic cosmology, primordial waters of the heavens, the kursi meaning the footstool of Allah, the arsh meaning the throne of Allah, Lawh al-Mahfuz meaning the sacred tablet, the second creation of Allah, Al-Kalam, why Allah created the universe, the first creation of Allah, the 7 portals and dimensions of the universe and discussed, where Allah was before He created the universe. If you haven't watched them yet, please do. Now let's continue. Hadith mentions in Sahih al-Bukhari, Hadith 6497, the Prophet said, "A servant utters a word pleasing to Allah without realizing its worth, and Allah records for him His pleasure until the day he meets Him, and a servant utters a word displeasing to Allah without realizing its seriousness, and Allah records for him His displeasure till the day he meets Him." This hadith implies the constant presence of angels around human faculties, hearing, speech and sight. Tasawwufi exegetes say the same applies to what the ears receive and the eyes observe. Every act of perception has a celestial recorder. The angels of Samʿ and Basar preserve not only words but also sensory impressions that shape the heart. In Sahih Muslim, Hadith 2988, the Prophet said, "Allah has angels who go about seeking gatherings of dhikr, meaning remembrance of Allah. When they find such gatherings, they surround them with their wings up to the lowest heaven. These angels of remembrance are closely linked to those of hearing, Malaikat al-Samʿ. They amplify the spiritual vibrations of sacred sound, Quranic recitation, dhikr and dua. The Tasawwufi masters teach that these angels purify one's spiritual hearing, aligning the outer ear with the ear of the heart, Samʿ al-Qalb." In Sahih Muslim, Hadith 2564, the Prophet said, "The eyes commit adultery, and their adultery is the look. The ears commit adultery, and their adultery is listening." Here the Prophet directly tied the senses of hearing and sight to moral accountability. Angels of perception oversee this delicate balance. They testify to how one's gaze and hearing are used, whether toward remembrance or heedlessness. In Tasawwufi cosmology, these angels are called Muhasib al-Hawas, the auditors of the senses. In Sahih al-Bukhari, Hadith 2652, the Prophet said, "Whoever believes in Allah and the last day, let him speak good or remain silent." This instruction, while emphasizing speech, also implies restraint of the ear. For to hear evil is to invite corruption into the heart. The angels of Samʿ are said to withdraw their light when one listens to gossip, lies or backbiting. The Tasawwufi masters teach the ear is the gateway of faith. When it is corrupted, the heart darkens. In Jami al-Tirmidhi, Hadith 2400, the Prophet said, "When Allah loves a servant, He calls Jibreel and says, 'I love so and so, so love him.' Then Jibreel loves him and calls out in the heavens, 'Allah loves so and so, so love him.'" The transmission of divine affection through sound, the call of Jibreel, is symbolic of celestial hearing. Tasawwufi interpretations suggest that when one purifies their Samʿ, they begin to perceive the hidden calls of divine love through the subtle angelic channels of hearing. In Sahih Muslim, Hadith 2996, the Prophet said, "Allah does not look at your forms or your wealth, but He looks at your hearts and your deeds." This hadith establishes that sight itself can be veiled or unveiled. The angels of Basar oversee how the physical eye aligns with the heart's vision. The more purified one's intention, the more these angels open the Basira, the inner sight that perceives divine wisdom in all things. In Musnad Ahmad, Hadith 23630, the Prophet said, "If you lower your gaze for Allah, He will grant your heart a sweetness that you have never felt before." This tradition directly corresponds to Malaikat al-Basar, for the act of restraining the gaze invokes their protective light. According to the Tasawwufi masters, every time a believer lowers the gaze from what is forbidden, an angel of sight inscribes a star of light within the heart. In Sahih al-Bukhari, Hadith 7062, the Prophet said, Dreams are one of 46 parts of prophethood. This connects hearing and sight to revelation. The Malaikat al-Samʿ wal-Baṣar sometimes manifest in dreams to test or inspire the soul. The clarity or distortion of a vision or dream reflects how illuminated or clouded one's sensory angels are. Tasawwufi masters explain that these hadiths collectively affirm a sacred ecology of perception, where every ear and every eye is under angelic stewardship. The angels of hearing protect the believer's dhikr, while those of sight guard their basira. Together, they maintain equilibrium between outer experience and inner reality, recording every echo and every glance as part of one's spiritual ledger. Description and numbers. In the hidden cosmology of Islamic esotericism, Malaikat, al-Samʿ, al-Baṣar are known as the guardians of perception, angelic forces assigned to govern the spiritual and physical faculties of hearing called Samʿ and sight called Basar. They form part of a vast network of angels responsible for recording, refining, and purifying human experience through the senses. These angels are composed of Nur al-Idrak, the light of perception. Their luminosity reflects divine awareness, for Allah says in Surah 16 verse 78, "And Allah brought you out of your mother's wombs not knowing anything, and He gave you hearing, sight and heart so that you may give thanks." The Tasawwufi masters interpret this verse to mean that each of these three faculties, hearing, sight and the heart, is governed by a distinct class of angels. The Malaikat al-Samʿ wal-Baṣar serve as the intermediaries between sensory perception and spiritual understanding. They are neither visible nor audible in the material sense, but their influence is felt whenever perception aligns with divine truth. According to the Futuhat al-Makkiyah of Hazrat Ibn Arabi, there are 70,000 angels who preside over the realm of sensory perception. Of these, 35,000 are angels of Samʿ, meaning hearing. They attend the auditory faculties of creation, recording every sound, word and vibration that resonates with the soul. 35,000 are angels of Basar, meaning sight. They illuminate and record every visual impression that passes through the physical and spiritual eye. Each human being is accompanied by two personal angels from this host, one linked to the ear and one to the eye. Their task is to transmute sensory input into light or shadow, depending on whether the act is in obedience or disobedience to Allah. Above them stand 7 archangels who command the domains of perception under the direct supervision of Angel Jibril, the angel of revelation and divine transmission, since all forms of perception, whether through hearing or seeing, ultimately mirror revelation itself. In visionary descriptions from the saints, notably Sheikh al-Akbar Ibn Arabi and Shah Waliullah Dahlawi, these angels are said to appear in forms of luminous waves or ripples of light, vibrating in patterns that resemble sound and sight merging together. The angels of hearing appear as rings of soft blue and silver light, moving in rhythmic waves resembling breath. The angels of sight are radiant white and golden, flashing like lightning or the reflection of the sun upon still water. When seen in dreams or kashf, they often manifest as eyes of light or ears formed from radiance, symbolizing perception purified of distortion. Their speech is silence, yet they communicate through resonance and the subtle echo within the soul. The Malaikat al-Samʿ wal-Baṣar have 4 essential roles, recording every sensory act related to seeing and hearing, both external and internal, filtering impressions that reach the heart, permitting or blocking entry based on divine will. Testing perception, they allow illusions or unveilings according to one's purity of niyyah, meaning intention, illuminating the inner faculties, transforming physical sight into basira, meaning inner vision, and physical hearing into Samʿ al-Qalb, hearing of the heart. Their presence explains why the Quran repeatedly pairs these faculties, as stated in Surah 17 verse 36. Indeed, the hearing, the sight, and the heart, each of them will be questioned. In esoteric tafsir, the Malaikat al-Samʿ wal-Baṣar maintain balance between dhikr and ghafla, meaning remembrance and heedlessness. When a believer listens to Quran, recites dhikr, or gazes upon what Allah has permitted, these angels expand the light of the heart. But when hearing is polluted by gossip, music that corrupts, or when sight is defiled by forbidden glances, their wings fold and light withdraws. The Prophet said, as recorded in Sunan Ibn Majah 4244, when the believer commits a sin, a black dot appears upon his heart. If he repents, it is erased. If he continues, it covers the heart. Tasawufi masters say these dots are the withdrawal of light from the angels of perception. Role with the prophets. 1. With Prophet Adam. When Prophet Adam first opened his eyes in paradise, the angels of sight descended and expanded his perception, allowing him to behold the beauty of Jannah. The angels of hearing were the first to teach him to listen to the divine address. When Allah said, Kun, meaning be, Prophet Adam's soul responded. In Tasawwufi cosmology, these angels were responsible for the first alignment between sound and vision. When Prophet Adam saw the light of Muhammad shining above the throne and heard the angels' tasbih echoing through creation. Thus, his first test was perception itself, to see beauty and remain obedient, to hear command and not rebel. 2. With Prophet Nuh. The Quran states in Surah 71 verse 7, and indeed, every time I called them that you might forgive them, they put their fingers in their ears and covered themselves with their garments. Here, the angels of Samʿ and Basar were withdrawn from the hearts of Prophet Nuh's people, a punishment for arrogance. Yet to Prophet Nuh, these same angels granted clarity of hearing. He could hear the whisper of the storm before it arrived, and clarity of sight. He saw the ark before the flood. In Tasawwufi interpretation, the angels of perception guarded his inner focus so that the mockery of men did not cloud the divine vision. 3. With Prophet Ibrahim. When Prophet Ibrahim asked Allah to show him how he resurrects the dead, the angels of sight unveiled for him a reality beyond human vision. They allowed him to see life return to the lifeless, teaching that perception purified by faith becomes a mirror of divine power. Likewise, when he heard the command to sacrifice his son, the angels of hearing ensured that he perceived, not the sound of cruelty, but the voice of divine test. Thus his Samʿ and Basar were perfected, hearing only Allah, seeing only Allah. 4. With Prophet Musa. When Prophet Musa stood before the fire at Tusina, he both saw and heard the presence of Allah. The angels of perception purified his senses to bear revelation that no other prophet had perceived in that form. And when he came to it, a voice was called out, O Musa, indeed I am your Lord. In Tasawwufi explanation, the angels of Samʿ and Basar transformed the fire into light and the sound into command, allowing Prophet Musa to experience kashf al-Haqiqah, unveiling of truth, without his faculties being annihilated. 5. With Prophet Dawood. Prophet Dawood was gifted with hearing that could perceive the praise of stones and mountains. The angels of Samʿ tuned his heart to the symphony of creation, while the angels of Basar allowed him to discern truth and falsehood in judgment. In Tasawwufi symbolism, these angels signify perceptual justice, the ability to see beyond appearance and hear beyond sound, the hallmark of a divinely illuminated ruler. 6. With Prophet Sulaiman. Prophet Sulaiman was granted hearing of the speech of birds and ants, and sight to witness the arsh, meaning throne of Bilqis, transported before him. Here the angels of perception bridge the human and jinn realms, expanding his faculties beyond physical limits. The Sufis say these angels made his Samʿ receptive to the language of creation and his Basar penetrating enough to perceive realities beyond veils. A foretaste of Basira al-Kamila, the perfect vision of the Awliya. 7th, with Prophet Isa's miracles curing the blind and the deaf were physical manifestations of the angels of Samʿ and Basar. Through his touch, they restored what had been withheld. Thus, the angels that govern perception moved through him as an instrument of mercy. Tasawwufi commentaries teach that in Isa, hearing became inspiration and sight became illumination, both reflections of divine proximity, for he perceived the unseen as one sees daylight. 8. With Prophet Muhammad, in the seal of prophets, these angels reached their fullest manifestation. Allah says in Surah 53 verse 17, "The sight, meaning Basar, did not swerve, nor did it transgress." In Sahih Bukhari Hadith 6502, his hearing and his sight are perfected through me. During the Miraj, the Malaikat al-Samʿ wal-Baṣar illuminated the Prophet's senses to withstand the divine proximity. He saw Jibril in his true form, heard the speech of his Lord, and yet remained balanced. In Tasawwufi exegesis, these angels are the guardians of Muhammadan perception, the means by which the Prophet ﷺ, with the light of Allah called Basar bi Nurillah, and heard with divine resonance called Samʿ bi Nurillah. After his passing, their light continues to accompany his spiritual inheritors, the Awliya, who see reality as it is and hear truth even in silence. Role in Tasawwuf and Tariqat. In the ocean of Tasawwuf, the Malaikat al-Samʿ wal-Baṣar are not only celestial beings, they are forces of inner perception, assigned to test, refine, and expand the seeker's spiritual faculties. They represent the sacred purification of the outer senses into inner realities, transforming what one hears and sees from mere sensory experience into pathways of divine knowledge. Their influence is continuous in the lives of those who tread the tariqah, guiding the disciple from hearing the call to beholding the reality. The inner hearing called Samʿ al-Batin. The Tasawwufi masters teach that true Samʿ, meaning hearing, begins not with the ears but with the heart. The Prophet said, "When Allah wishes good for a servant, He opens for him the hearing of his heart. The angels of Samʿ awaken this hidden faculty. When a seeker begins to listen beyond words, when dhikr is no longer a repetition of sound but an echo of remembrance within the soul. During muraqabah, the meditative awareness, these angels cleanse the ears of the heart from the noise of the world, teaching the salik, the traveler, to discern between the whisper of the nafs, the whisper of shaitan, and the inspiration of angels. Through this purified hearing, the seeker begins to experience Samā, the spiritual audition where divine meanings descend through melodies, recitations, or even silence. The Malaikat al-Samʿ govern this stage, ensuring that what is heard transforms into obedience, awareness, and love, not heedlessness or illusion. 2. The inner sight called Basira al-Qalb, where the angels of Samʿ refine hearing, the angels of Basar illuminate sight. This Basira, meaning inner vision, is a light cast into the heart by Allah. As mentioned in the Hadith, beware of the insight, the firasa of the believer, for he sees with the light of Allah. In the tariqah, the Malaikat al-Basar assist in lifting the veils that cover perception. When a disciple practices tafakkur, meaning contemplation, upon the names and attributes of Allah, these angels expand the eye of the soul, allowing one to see divine wisdom in all occurrences, in loss, joy, poverty, and abundance. The Tasawwufi masters teach that every unveiling, meaning kashf, begins with these angels, for they regulate what a seeker can and cannot perceive, ensuring spiritual vision unfolds only according to purity and readiness. 3. The union of hearing and sight, Samʿ wal Basar, as oneness. At higher levels of the path, hearing and sight merge into a single awareness, the state of Jam' al-Idrak, meaning unified perception. Here, the Malaikat al-Samʿ wal-Baṣar no longer act separately. They synchronize the soul's perception into the Muhammadan consciousness, the state of seeing as the Prophet saw and hearing as he heard. In this degree, known to the advanced saliks and murids of the common murshideen, the perfect guides, one perceives the world as a mirror of the divine. All that is heard becomes a sign of his speech, all that is seen becomes a reflection of his beauty. Shaykh Ibn Arabi writes in Al-Futuhat al-Makkiyah, when the angels of perception are awakened within the servant, he no longer distinguishes between sound and vision, for both become channels through which the real manifests himself. 4. The secret of the letter Sheen in the science of divine letters called Ilm al-Huruf. The letter Sheen is known as the letter of perception. Its 3 dots symbolize the 3 primary windows of the human soul. The eye, Basar, as the gate of outer seeing. The ear, Samʿ, as the gate of hearing. The heart, Qalb, as the gate of understanding. Together they represent the triangle of perception through which man engages creation. In the Quran, Allah repeatedly joins these 3. As stated in Surah 17 verse 36, indeed the hearing, the sight and the heart, all of these will be questioned. Thus, Sheen contains the totality of human awareness. Its sound, a whispering sh, mirrors the subtle vibration of consciousness, the stirring of perception itself. But in this world, perception is veiled by the lower self called nafs, and so the 3 dots become symbols of imperfection, egoic distortion, and limited seeing. How the 3 dots are the 3 veils. Each dot in Sheen corresponds to a veil that clouds divine awareness. The eye's dot represents illusion, meaning warm, seeing the outer forms but not the divine reality within. The ear's dot symbolizes deception, meaning guru, hearing without discernment, following voices of desire or falsehood. The heart's dot stands for heedlessness, meaning ghafla, being aware of the world but blind to the presence of Allah. When these 3 are tainted, the Sheen becomes the root of shaitan, for the word shaitan itself begins with Sheen, the symbol of corrupted perception. The shaitan sees but does not perceive, hears but does not heed, knows but does not love. He was given eyes, ears and intellect, yet his heart turned away. Thus, in the Tasawwufi path, the first inner jihad is to purify these 3 gates, to cleanse the eyes from distraction, the ears from falsehood, and the heart from arrogance. From Sheen to Seen, the path of purification. When the seeker begins to purify his perception, the 3 dots of Sheen are removed, and what remains is the letter Seen. Sheen becomes seen only when the seeker's 3 faculties, sight, hearing and heart, are freed from impurity. The removal of these dots symbolizes the annihilation of self-perception and the birth of pure witnessing, meaning shuhud. At this stage, the salik, the traveler, no longer sees with the eyes of the ego, nor hears through the noise of the world. He perceives only by Allah, fulfilling the divine saying of a hadith. When I love my servant, I become his hearing with which he hears, his sight with which he sees, and his heart with which he understands. This is the moment when the shin of the seeker transforms into sin, and his perception becomes the perception of truth, the mystery of Yasin. Now emerges the luminous secret. The Prophet Muhammad was called Yasin, the one whose sheen had become seen, the one whose perception was pure, whose eyes never swerved, whose heart did not lie about what it saw. As stated in Surah Al-Najm verse 11, the heart did not lie about what it saw. In the Quran, Allah calls him Yasin, and the Tasawwufi masters say this title signifies, O you whose seen is pure, whose hearing, sight and heart are free of dots, free of ego, free of veil, Thus, Yasin represents the purified human form, the perfect reflection of divine awareness. And because of this purity, Surah Yasin is known as the heart of the Quran, for it mirrors the heart of the Prophet, which was free from all distortions of sheen. The heart of the Quran lies in Yasin because the heart of all revelation is the Muhammadan heart, untainted by the three dots of human limitation. In Tasawwufi symbolism, sheen is the human condition, a letter of perception bound by its veils. Seen is the state of realization, when perception returns to its source. Yasin is the perfect man, al-Insan al-Kamil, the Prophet, who embodies the divine hearing, seeing and knowing. The seeker therefore journeys from shin to sin, from distortion to purity, until he becomes a reflection of Yasin, the one whose every sense is in harmony with the divine. 5. Stages of perception in tariqat. Each tariqah recognizes these angels' influence at different spiritual stages. In Qadiriyah, the disciple is trained to silence the tongue and open the inner ear through Dikr Jahri, meaning audible remembrance. Sheikh Abdul Qadir al-Jilani teaches that only through controlled hearing can one begin to see the hidden mercy in every decree. In Naqshbandiyah, the seeker focuses on Muraqaba al-Samʿ wal-Baṣar, the meditation of divine perception, until the senses no longer deceive. In Chishtiya, Sama, meaning spiritual audition, is a sacred practice guided by these angels. Hearing mystical music becomes a test of purity, whether one perceives beauty or falls to egoic emotion. In Shadhiliya and Rifaiya, visual meditations on the names of Allah invoke the angels of sight, expanding the disciples' basira into shuhud, meaning witnessing. Through these pathways, the Malaikat al-Samʿ, wal-Baṣar transform the outer faculties into instruments of divine recognition, meaning marifa. 6. The test of perception. In the tariqat, the presence of these angels is both a blessing and a test. They bring forth trials where one's perception becomes clouded, hearing lies instead of truth, or seeing illusion instead of wisdom. The seeker learns humility by realizing that even perception is not his own, it is governed by divine permission. This is why many Tasawwufi masters warn, the eye that claims to see God without discipline sees only itself. The Malaikat al-Samʿ wal-Baṣar purified the Salik from this spiritual arrogance, leading them toward Basar bil-Haq, seeing through the truth. Commentaries from Tasawwufi masters. 1. Imam al-Ghazali saw hearing and sight as the two doors through which all knowledge and misguidance enter the soul. He wrote in Ihya Ulum al-Din, the eye and the ear are two messengers of the heart. If they are truthful, the heart finds light. If they lie, the heart becomes darkened. He explained that the Malaikat al-Samʿ wal-Baṣar are appointed guardians over these doors, ensuring that what enters aligns with divine truth. Their test is subtle. They allow the believer to witness beauty and ugliness, harmony and discord, truth and falsehood, to see which perception he follows. Imam al-Ghazali describes these angels as al-Mulimun bil-Basira, the inspirers of inner sight. He said that when the seeker keeps his hearing pure and avoiding gossip, falsehood and arrogance, and his sight modest, like turning away from vanity and temptation, the angels open to him the eye of the heart, Ayn al-Qalb. He writes, when the ear listens only for truth and the eye looks only with mercy, the angels of hearing and sight descend with nur into the chest, transforming perception into remembrance. For Imam al-Ghazali, this purification is the foundation of muraqabah, constant awareness of Allah's gaze, and the first step toward kashf al-basira, unveiling of inner vision. 2. Sheikh al-Akbar Hazrat Ibn Arabi viewed the Malaikat al-Samʿ wal-Baṣar as manifestations of the divine names as-Sami, the all-hearing, and al-Basir, the all-seeing. He writes in Futuhat al-Makkiyah, these angels are not external messengers but the inner reflections of the names through which Allah perceives himself in the human mirror. Whoever purifies his hearing and sight becomes the locus of these names. According to Ibn Arabi, these angels serve as mediators of perception between the Alam al-Shahada, the seen world, and the Alam al-Ghaib, the unseen. Through them, Allah tests whether the servant's perception recognizes unity behind multiplicity. He explains, the ear hears 1,000 voices, yet only one speaks. The eye sees countless forms, yet only one is manifest. These angels veil and unveil at once. They test by showing multiplicity and reward by revealing unity. The Sheikh teaches that the Prophet, being Ain al-Kamal, the eye of perfection, perceived through these angels directly from Allah. His hearing was not distracted by multiplicity, and his sight did not waver. Hence, the Malaikat al-Samʿ wal-Baṣar were his constant companions in revelation. 3. Sheikh Abdul Qadir al-Jilani described these angels as the custodians of the spiritual senses, guarding the seeker's journey from illusion. In his Surah Al-Isrā, he wrote, the outward senses are the tools of the nafs, but the inward senses belong to the ruh, meaning spirit. The angels of hearing and sight are appointed to protect the spirit from the deceit of the nafs. He taught that these angels descend upon the seeker during deep muraqabah, meaning vigilant meditation, closing his outward senses to the world and opening his inward senses to the real. He said, when a man restrains his eyes from the forbidden and purifies his ears from idle talk, 2 angels of light stand over his heart. One whispers remembrance, the other shows the face of the beloved. For Sheikh Abdul Qadir, the battle of Samʿ al-Basar is the greatest inner jihad, for every sin enters through these 2 gates. The Malaikat al-Samʿ wal-Baṣar, he said, are the helpers, meaning ansar, of those who strive to keep these gates clean from corruption, and through them the light of divine witnessing, meaning mushahada, enters. 4. Hazrat Shams Tabrizi spoke of these angels in his discourses as the testers of vision and listening, not to obscure but to refine perception until the seeker sees through divine eyes. He said, the world is full of sounds and shapes that lie. The angels of hearing and sight stand between the lover and the beloved to test whether he sees with the beloved's sight or with his own. According to Hazrat Shams, most people's hearing is deafened by self and their eyes are veiled by desire. These angels test by presenting illusions of truth, so the seeker learns discernment through suffering. He said, when you hear praise, do not believe it. When you see beauty, do not claim it. Wait until the angels turn your ear inward and your eye upon your own heart. Then you will see nothing but Him, even in the false and the broken. To Shams, these angels serve as instruments of divine jealousy, meaning gaira ilahiyya, removing from the heart any perception that competes with God. The one who passes their tests becomes Arif Billah, one who perceives only Allah in all perception. 5. Maulana Jalal al-Din Rumi saw the angels of hearing and sight as the twin alchemists of the soul, transforming sound and image into divine meaning. He wrote in the Mathnawi, your eye is a lamp, your ear a lute, but unless the angels of light blow upon them, they play only the music of dust. He describes how every perception, when purified by remembrance, becomes dhikr. When the ear hears the Quran with sincerity, the angel of hearing turns the sound into light. When the eye looks with compassion, the angel of sight turns the image into remembrance. Maulana Rumi says, when the lover looks upon creation, he sees only the beloved's face. When he listens, he hears only the beloved's call. Then the angels of hearing and sight weave for him a robe of light that no darkness can tear. he connects their function to the Prophet. His eye did not waver, nor did his ear err, for the angels guarded his perception. He saw the world as it truly is, a mirror for the hidden friend. Maulana Rumi concludes, "Close your eyes to the false and your ears to the useless. Then, like Muhammad, you will see through the veil of the world the radiance of truth, possibility of seeing them." 1. Seeing them in real life. In real life, perceiving these angels with physical eyes is extremely rare, for they dwell in the realm of Malākkut, the subtle world behind the veil of sensory perception. Yet, the people of purified senses called al-Tahara al-Hissiyah sometimes experience their nearness through light, fragrance or vibration of presence rather than physical form. These angels may manifest as flashes of light or radiance near the eyes or ears, a sensation that expands the heart or fills it with sudden calm. The Fuqara, meaning spiritual poor who reach the Maqam al-Ihsan, where they worship as if seeing Allah, are sometimes allowed to perceive the angelic guardians who purify their perception from heedlessness. The saints have described that when a person guards the eyes from haram and protects the ears from falsehood, Allah sends these angels as unseen protectors who soften the senses, preventing sin before it begins. Sheikh Abdul Qadir al-Jilani writes that sometimes, in hal meaning state, the seeker sees them as transparent forms of light, hovering at the sides of the head or shoulders. They appear neither male nor female, but of pure luminosity, their wings resembling waves of white and golden light that shimmer and hum softly like Quranic recitation. Their real-life manifestation is thus not through the material eye, but through basira, meaning spiritual sight, opening briefly upon the physical world. It is said, when the heart is clean, the eyes see what others cannot, and the angels who dwell in perception reveal themselves. 2. Seeing them in dreams. Dreams are the most common and safest realm to encounter these angels. The dream world, called Alam al-Mithal, acts as a mirror between the spiritual and the physical, allowing the soul to perceive realities through symbolic form. The Malaikat al-Samʿ wal-Baṣar often appear as beings of light clothed in silver and gold veils, touching the dreamer's eyes or ears gently with beams of light. Sometimes they appear reciting verses such as verse 36 of Surah 17. Indeed, the hearing, the sight, and the heart, all will be questioned. Others have dreamt of washing their ears with light or wiping their eyes with luminous hands, signifying the purification of perception. In the dream of the righteous, they may speak softly without words, communicating directly into the heart. Their presence brings intense clarity. The dreamer awakens with a sense of expanded vision and subtle spiritual hearing, sometimes able to discern falsehood from truth more keenly. Imam al-Ghazali wrote that when the angels of hearing and sight visit the dreamer, it is a sign that Allah wishes to cleanse the inner mirrors of the senses. He said, "He who sees light being poured into his eyes or hears the call of unseen reciters is being visited by the angels of Samʿ and Basar, the reformers of the soul's windows." Thus these dreams are among the signs of acceptance called Alad al-Lida, from the divine, indicating that the seeker's perception is being refined to hear and see with nur. 3. Seeing them in Kashaf. Kashaf, spiritual unveiling, is the state of inner vision granted to the Arifin, meaning Gnostics, when the veils of the senses are lifted and the realities of the unseen become manifest to the soul. In this state, the Malaikat al-Samʿ wal-Baṣar are perceived as currents of divine light rather than distinct beings. They move within the seeker's inner faculties, purifying his perception from within. They may appear as streams of light flowing from the ears to the heart and from the eyes to the spirit, symbolizing the connection between perception and divine truth. Some Awliya describe them as vibrations of soundless remembrance. One angel representing Samʿ al-Batin, the inner hearing, and the other Basar al-Batin, the inner sight. In their unveiling, the seeker realizes that these angels have always been present since birth, guarding the pathways of perception, recording what enters and exits through sound and sight. Hazrat Ibn Arabi explained that in Kashf al-Ma'na, meaning unveiling of meanings, these angels appear as living symbols of divine awareness. They do not speak, for their very existence is dhikr. He wrote, "When the veil is lifted, the knower sees that every act of seeing and hearing has two witnesses, one from the self, one from the angel. The first perishes, the second remains with Allah. The unveiling of these angels marks a profound stage. The seeker begins to perceive creation as a symphony of divine names, every sound a remembrance, every vision a sign. This is why the Prophet said in a hadith of Tirmidhi, 'Beware the vision of the believer, for he sees with the light of Allah.' Roll in the grave. When a believer enters the grave, the Malaikat al-Samʿ, wal-Baṣar act as gatekeepers of perception, overseeing the soul's awareness of its deeds. They retrace every sound and sight the soul experienced in the worldly life, bringing forward the moral and spiritual consequences of what the heart heard and the eyes saw. Their presence ensures that the soul is fully aware of what it indulged in and what it refrained from, echoing the Quranic verse of Surah 21 verse 47. And we shall set up the scales of justice for the day of resurrection, so that not a soul will be treated unjustly in anything. The saints describe the angels as standing at the side of the grave, illuminating the soul with reflective light, which simultaneously comforts the righteous and challenges the heedless. In Tasawwufi understanding, their role is also psychological and spiritual, purifying the soul's inner vision from the illusions of the world and preparing it for the Barzakh experience. Role in Barzakh, the intermediate realm. In the Barzakh, the Malaikat al-Samʿ, wal-Baṣar act as spiritual custodians, guiding the soul through the subtle realms. They help the soul discern the echoes of its worldly perceptions, showing how each act of seeing, hearing, and understanding has shaped its spiritual reality. According to Tasawwuf, the pure soul perceives the Barzakh as a luminous journey, where these angels transform perception into insight, revealing hidden truths about one's intentions and thoughts. Hazrat Ibn Arabi explains that in Barzakh, the soul experiences the consequences of inattentive senses. The angels show how heedlessness in hearing or seeing manifests in spiritual deficiencies, while attentiveness and righteousness bring illumination. Role on Qiyamah and Mizan, the scale of justice. On Qiyamah, the Malaikat al-Samʿ, wal-Baṣar become active witnesses, recording every perception. They are responsible for testifying before Allah regarding what the person saw and heard, which forms part of the divine accounting. As the Quran states in Surah 17 verse 36, "Do not follow that of which you have no knowledge. Indeed, the hearing, the sight, and the heart, about all of these you will be questioned." In the Mizan, the angels balance the scales, showing how the believer's use of eyes and ears contributed to spiritual elevation or decline. Every moment of listening to truth or falsehood, seeing the virtuous or the corrupt, is weighed. Their testimony ensures absolute justice, for they are beyond bias and fully aligned with Allah's will. Role on the Sirat, the bridge over hellfire. Crossing the Sirat requires the soul to transcend worldly perception and attachment. The Malaikat al-Samʿ wal-Baṣar guide the believer's perception, enabling them to see the divine path and avoid illusions or traps that could lead to faltering. Saints describe that their light illuminates the narrow bridge, allowing the faithful to navigate safely. In mystical terms, They convert the inner senses into spiritual instruments, so the believer perceives the unseen realities directly, not through veiled worldly senses. This ensures that the righteous, who purified their senses during life, cross with ease, while those who misuse their faculties experience the consequences in perceptual disorientation. Protection and awareness through a Kamil Murshid or perfect spiritual guide plays a crucial role in teaching the disciple how to protect the senses from corrupting influences, thereby aligning the soul with the Malaikat, al-Samʿ, wal-Baṣar. The Murshid instructs the seeker on disciplined hearing and sight, guiding them to avoid gossip, falsehood, and indecency that could stain the soul. Through specific spiritual exercises, dhikr and muraqabah, meaning meditative presence, the aspirant harmonizes the inner perception, making the soul receptive to angelic guidance. The Kamil Murshid demonstrates how listening and seeing with intention and awareness acts as a shield, so that the angels of perception can operate fully, illuminating the soul in life and protecting it in the barzakh and beyond. A Murshid awakens the seeker to the reality that every breath is a form shaped by zikr. By teaching breath zikr, the Murshid transforms the human into a being of continuous remembrance, surpassing angels. A Kamil Murshid, meaning a perfect spiritual guide, is considered in Tasawwuf the inheritor of the Prophet, guiding seekers on the path from clay, meaning nafs, to light, meaning ruh. The Kamil Murshid helps awaken this nafas al-Rahman, meaning breath of the All-Merciful, within the disciple. Also as stated in Surah Qāf verse 17, whoever Allah guides is truly guided, but whoever He leaves to stray, you will never find for them a Murshid, meaning a spiritual guide. Angels are always in dhikr, but their dhikr is fixed and limited to the forms Allah gave them. Man, however, through guidance of a Murshid, can transform his every breath into dhikr, making his remembrance continuous, like angels, and even higher because it comes through free will. In Tariqat, the Murshid teaches Habs al-Nafas, meaning watching the breath, and Zikr Hafi, meaning silent dhikr. Every inhalation and every exhalation affirms Allah and He alone. This makes the seeker live in the constant rhythm of divine presence. Through Quran, the Quran repeatedly emphasizes the importance of guarding the eyes and ears. Like Surah Al-Ḥajj 36 verse 17, do not follow that of which you have no knowledge. Indeed, the hearing, the sight, and the heart, about all of these you will be questioned. Surah 7 verse 186. Say, I only advise you of one thing, that you rise to Allah in pairs and alone, and reflect on the creation of the heavens and the earth. By consciously purifying what one sees and hears, the believer creates an internal sanctuary for the Malaikat, al-Samʿ, wal-Baṣar to act unimpeded. Reciting and reflecting on Quranic verses focused on mindfulness, observation, and discernment strengthens the soul's resilience against spiritual harm. Through du'as, the Prophet Muhammad provided practical prayers to guard the senses and invoke divine protection, seeking refuge from misleading voices and harmful sights. O Allah, protect my eyes from forbidden sights, my ears from forbidden sounds, and my heart from evil thoughts. Du'as such as Ayat al-Kursi and Surah Al-Falaq and An-Nas are recommended to shield the spiritual faculties, creating an environment in which the Malaikat, al-Samʿ, wal-Baṣar can operate fully. Repetition of these supplications, especially in the morning and evening, is advised by Sufi masters to maintain constant angelic support. Acts to do: mindful listening, only hear what aligns with truth, spirituality, and moral artness. Purified sight: avoid viewing harmful, corrupt, or distracting images that can cloud the soul. Heartful reflection: constantly examine the impressions left on the heart by what is seen and heard. Regular dhikr and contemplation: These practices open the inner faculties, enabling the Malaikat al-Samʿ wal-Baṣar to strengthen spiritual awareness. Seeking knowledge from a Kamil Murshid aligns the senses with divine guidance, acts to avoid indulging in gossip, slander, or malicious speech, watching or listening to content that incites desire, hatred, or spiritual distraction, ignoring inner reflection on sensory input, relying solely on external means without purifying the heart and intentions, neglecting prayers and dhikr that safeguard the senses. So, dear viewers, the Malaikat al-Samʿ wal-Baṣar are the custodians of perception, safeguarding the soul through its hearing, sight, and comprehension. By purifying the senses, following a Kamil Murshid, adhering to Quranic guidance, performing protective du'as, and observing mindful acts, the believer aligns with these angels, ensuring spiritual protection in this life, barzakh, qiyamah, mizan, and across the sirat. They remind us that every sound and sight carries weight, and that angelic oversight is not external only, but intimately tied to inner discipline. Through awareness and spiritual vigilance, the believer cultivates an inner sanctuary, a space where angelic support is fully effective, guiding the soul safely from worldly trials to eternal illumination. Thank you for watching our video. If you enjoy this content and find it beneficial, we kindly ask you to like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to our channel for more authentic, faith-strengthening content. And let's continue this journey of knowledge together. Inshallah, see you in the next video. Allah Hafiz.